The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
I want to get everybody up to speed on what's happening with Edward Snowden. He is still in the Moscow airport. He has now been denied asylum by a number of countries after applying for safe haven in 21 nations, according to the most recent report I read. If you haven't been following the Edward Snowden story, he initially became known for releasing a number of documents outlining NSA surveillance. He's a former NSA contractor. Through Glenn Greenwald, he did an interview in Hong Kong explaining his motives, explaining his displeasure with certain aspects of the Obama administration. That led to him leaving Hong Kong, going to Moscow, and then basically being in an in-transit situation. As we talked about with Dennis Campbell last week, not really in any country, just kind of in this limbo reminiscent of The Terminal, that movie in which Tom Hanks plays a character who has no country and he's stuck in an airport. He's been applying for asylum in a number of different countries. Poland immediately rejected his petition for asylum. The Indian Foreign Ministry spokesman said, "We've concluded that we see no reason to accede to the request." The Netherlands has said no. A spokesman for Russian President Vladimir Putin said that Snowden himself has decided to scrap his petition with Moscow, where he's been stranded since June 23rd, after the Kremlin chief said he wanted him to stop releasing damaging allegations about the U.S., basically saying, if you're going to continue releasing stuff, then we need you to stop if we're going to consider your asylum request. Then WikiLeaks got involved. WikiLeaks tried to help him with the applications. They sent out applications to 13 European countries, 6 countries in Latin America, China, and India. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman in Beijing said, "I've seen some reports of his petition for political asylum in some countries, but I have no information about that." Austria and Finland, as well as Iceland, Norway, and Spain, confirmed they received the request, but argued it was legally invalid because it was not filed from inside their country, which is not an uncommon thing, Lewis. That was an issue when Iceland was being thrown about. Iceland said, typically to make an asylum request in the first place, you've got to be in the country. Mm-hmm. And Italy said it was evaluating the request, and they're calling it irregular also because it wasn't made in person. Germany saying it will be reviewed according to the law. France and Switzerland have not yet received the applications. Bolivian President Morales said today, that Bolivia was willing to consider giving Snowden asylum, saying if there were a request, of course, we would be willing to debate and consider the idea. Snowden also getting some support from the leader of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro. No word from Ecuador thus far. If you had to say, Lewis, where will Edward Snowden end up? Can he just live in the Moscow airport indefinitely? Does in transit expire eventually? I don't believe it does.
I don't know. I mean, it's looking like Central or South America seems to be the place, but we'll see.
Do you think that there's any particular country that would be either more in line or less in line politically with the goals that he has stated as the motivating factors for the releases?
Well, I think just about every country in the world would fit into that category. But you have to play nice.
Natan, where do you think he'll end up?
I have no idea, but if a place accepts his asylum request, then I'm assuming that they're just wanting to make an anti-American statement, and they're just using it as fodder for domestic political reasons and for their own fame.
Right.
I'm sure Pakistan would love to have him.
I don't know how long this is going to go on for, and I don't know how it's going to end, but it is becoming quite a diplomatic situation, and I just don't. I really couldn't guess what's going to happen. We have to remember he might end up coming back to the U.S. and facing charges. That is still a possibility.
Definitely.